A few weeks ago, I received a comment from @middlegrounds on YouTube who asked, Day 2 of asking for ranking best illusion wall video. And you know what? I like your style. Illusory walls aren't in every soulsborne game, but when they show up, they often hide valuable items, secret passages, extra checkpoints, and even entirely new areas. I'm Billy S, and these are 7 iconic illusory walls in Soulsborne. Let me know your favourite illusory wall down below. When I think of illusory walls, my mind immediately goes to the original Dark Souls. Not to say Demon Souls didn't have any illusory walls, but they were in the Shrine of Storm's Archstone, and one of them was only relevant for having a katana-wielding skeleton you needed to farm for 100% completion. Dark Souls, though, they ran with the idea that illusory walls would be big moments of exploration, always containing rewards that left the player wanting to find more. Yet for my money, if you ask someone to name an illusory wall, they'll likely have our number 1 entry on the tip of their tongue. You're trudging through the fetid swamps of Blighttown when you see a large wooden ramp leading to the base of a giant tree. Climbing it, you find yourself faced with a single corpse holding a plank shield. What a cruel joke, Blighttown. Except, hit the nearby wall revealing an illusion, and you obtain a treasure chest with twin humanities. At this point you're thinking, okay, that's actually a neat little reward. But if you hit the wall behind the treasure chest, something unexpected happens. A second illusory wall vanishes, revealing a tunnel that snakes deeper into the tree trunk, all the way to the Great Hollow. The illusory walls hiding the Great Hollow are a package deal, a pair that build on each other to deliver a 1-2 punch of sorpresa y escándalo for the player. You braved Miyazaki's swamp, and your reward is a winding, platforming hell featuring a chloranthy ring and a host of slippery tree branches, which ultimately takes you to Ashe Lake. I can only imagine the first person who found this secret and their reaction to that ancient expanse. It's a reveal that takes your breath away, and while there isn't that much to actually find down here, it's the principle that such a draw-dropping area could be hidden behind 2 very well-placed illusory walls. That makes this entry so magical. This won't be the only entry on this list to focus on hiding areas from the player, but this is definitely one of the most effective. Now onto something completely different, Dark Souls 2 had its own variation of illusory walls, except there were no illusions taking place. Instead, some of the walls throughout the game contained secret passages, where if you press the action button while touching them, it would trigger the doorway to open and reveal the goodies beyond. Often you'd get extra items, or in the case of Earthen Peak, Drangleic Castle, Sholva, hidden bonfires that made your life a lot easier. But I'm not here to focus on that type of utility. Instead, I just want to comment on the sheer chaos that is the Ruin Sentinels arena, which has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 illusory walls scattered across its 4 corners. I don't know what possessed the developers to install so many walls in this arena, nor are they particularly useful in the long run, with the best items being the target shield, which is great for parrying, and the hush sorcery, which reduces the range of enemy detection for 90 seconds. The other doors are basically trollish, one containing an enemy that can kill you if you're not expecting it, one that's completely empty, and one actively containing a second illusory wall, which just makes me laugh. Ask anyone who played Dark Souls 2 at launch who knew about this boss arena's illusory walls, and you'll likely hear stories of paranoia, as if this room could have 6 different illusory walls to discover, then what about the rest of the game? It led to a mentality that these walls could be found anywhere, in any area, and I really respect that by doing this, it made the entire first generation of Dark Souls 2 players incredibly thorough in checking every single wall they could for secrets. You'd often be rewarded for your tenacity, with some of the best bonfires in the game hidden behind some of the walls, while others contained cool loot to deck out your character. And yet, the absurdity of the Ruin Sentinels Picador Arena is still the funniest of the lot to me. In the previous entry, I mentioned that Dark Souls 2 had a lot of illusory walls that hid bonfires from the player, but it was actually Dark Souls that popularized this, and they arguably did it much better. Dark Souls 2's hidden bonfires were often in square rooms with no features, just a hidden box to sit in before rushing off to the next boss. Dark Souls, meanwhile, actively made their hidden bonfires feel like a part of the world. The bonfire behind Patches in the catacombs, which you can sneak a peek at through the holes in the cavern wall, the Daughters of Chaos bonfire found beyond Quelaag, where you meet the Fair Lady and her servant, acting as a prime base of operations for anything Izalith related. To be completely fair, the Daughters of Chaos should take this spot for being an illusory wall that hides a covenant that actually helps the player in the game. And yet my favourite hidden checkpoint in Dark Souls is actually behind an illusory wall found in Darkroot Garden, to the left of the gate leading into the forest woods. Similarly to the Daughters of Chaos, this Darkroot Garden bonfire acts as a perfect base of operations for exploring the area. It's central for both the Moonlight Butterfly and the Sif runbacks, otherwise you'll be running from either Andre or the Darkroot Basin Cavern every single time you die. And the bonfire behind the wall is also just a pure vibe. The aesthetics of this little nook of the garden are peak, and with the knowledge that it once overlooked the ruins of Ulasil, it adds majesty to the view. This is definitely a me pick because I just have an attachment to this specific spot, helped by Darkroot Garden being my favourite area in Dark Souls. I could AFK at this bonfire and it's all because of an incredibly well placed illusory wall where, if you don't know about it, you can run past without checking and never know any better. It's my little secret. He says, knowing full well that anyone playing online will see like 10 messages saying hidden path ahead. Dark Souls 3 has a decent amount of illusory walls, but I don't think many of them are particularly interesting. There's the different statue in the Ringed City that, when struck, reveals the path to the Dark Eater Midir boss fight. There's the illusory wall at Firelink near the Crow's Nest, which reveals a path to a chest containing the silver covetous Serpent Ring. But for my money, the only illusory wall in Dark Souls 3 that I fondly remember is one that completely shifts the tone of the game's story. Osiros is an optional boss found in the Consumed King's Garden, which, when defeated, will grant you access to a room containing a gesture that allows you to reach the Archdragon Peak. It's safe to assume that this is the reward for beating Osiros. In fact, most people wouldn't think to check the back of the room, behind a chest with a Titanite scale. But if you hit the wall back there, you'll reveal a dark expanse, and stepping through the tunnel and dropping into the waters below, you'll find the Untended Graves. This is a darkened version of the Cemetery of Ashe from the start of the game, a twisted variation devoid of light. Has the fire faded? Why do we not see this area from Lothric Castle? The implications are that you have actually travelled in time. Whether to the past or the future, I'm uncertain, but with the Ringed City's fight against Gale also introducing an element of time travel, it's not unheard of for this to occur. And deeper still, past the Champion Gundyr, peak fight by the way, we find a Firelink shrine shrouded in candlelight. The Handmaid is the only NPC here to remain, and behind one final illusory wall, you can discover the eyes of a Firekeeper, eyes which can be granted to our very own level up maiden to access a secret ending. 2 illusory walls for the price of 1. While the Great Hollow and Ash Lake are iconic reveals in their own way hidden by an illusory wall, there's something more impactful about the Untended Graves and the Dark Firelink Shrine, as it's actively affecting your lore as a character and your motivation in the game. It challenges you to think about your situation and gives you the power with those eyes to change it. And also you get the Artorias armor set from the Dark Handmaid, which immediately makes this illusory wall one of the best. The last entry isn't the only one to focus on unlocking a new ending for their chosen game, however, because our most recent single-player title, Elden Ring, has a rather infamous illusory wall that hides one of the most deceptively tricky challenges in the game. Beneath Leyndell, you can find the subterranean shunning grounds. This is where the omens were left to rot, hidden beneath the capital, cursed and shunned. At the very depths is a cathedral, the Cathedral of the Forsaken, where an illusion of Mohg fights off any intruders. Defeating him and exploring the back of the chapel, though, can reveal a hidden illusory wall, one that takes you into a dark, twisted place. For further down still we go, revealing a dark shaft descending, platforming requiring precise jumps to survive as you go, and a whole host of corpses that have seemingly been charred and burned. These are the remains of the various hermit merchants you've met throughout the game. The hermits are aware of what lies beneath Leyndell and what befell the rest of their people. In fact, Carle, the first merchant in Limgrave, had a cut questline that would have eventually involved finding him here. There's a video on VatiVidia's channel that goes into more detail. If you reach the bottom of this shaft, you'll find a closed-off door, one which will only open once you have stripped yourself bare, and within you will find the Three Fingers. They enclose you in their burning grip, the sanity of your mind beginning to wane and flicker away as the all-encompassing madness sets in. You have just locked yourself into the game's Lord of Frenzied Flame ending, which can only be reverted by a series of very convoluted actions involving completing Millicent's questline and killing Dragon Lord Placidusax. But if you're down here, you're not intending to go back. You want to embrace the madness and see this world crumble beneath you, as your companion Melina abandons you and seeks vengeance for your actions upon game's completion. This ending is all about player choice, but instead of focusing on another character, it's all about you, what you want to do, and what you're willing to sacrifice. Because if you don't accept this deal, Melina will become the kindling that alights the Erd Tree, sacrificing her in the pursuit of the Elden Ring. And yet, choosing to take on this ending so you can save her life will leave her horrified by your actions, something made clear when at Journey's End you are overcome by madness. All because you found a single illusory wall that led down a tricky platforming challenge into a darkened, maddening chamber. Moving back to something a bit lighter, we've seen areas hidden behind illusory walls on a small scale, but when Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree released, FromSoft knew they had the potential to do something incredibly funny. And that is, hide an entire portion of the map behind a single illusory wall. The Abyssal Woods is one of the creepiest zones in all of Soulsborne, only accessible via the Dark Light Catacombs. This is roughly 20% of the entire map of the DLC that is hidden away from you behind these catacombs. But the only way to reach the Darklight Catacombs is to go down the Recluse's River. This is a zone that contains multiple Golden Hippo mini-bosses, a village filled with man-flies, a mausoleum containing the Rakshasa boss fight, and the ruins of Ente, one of the locations containing a pedestal for the stone-sheathed sword, as well as a ton of furnace golems. And how do you get to the Recluse's River? Well, you enter the Shadow Keep via either entrance, and make your way to the guardhouse zone. Here, near a series of flaming boats, you'll find a ladder which will take you down into the castle moat. Nearby is a tunnel which ends with a painting you can collect, and to the right, an illusory wall. Go through the wall, hop into a coffin, and you'll awaken in a cavern right by the ruins of Ente. Everything I just talked about is hidden behind a single illusory wall that is very easy to miss because you get distracted by the painting in the same room, which happened to me on my first playthrough. I found it hilarious. FromSoft was so confident in the way they developed Shadow of the Erd Tree that they were happy to hide a vast portion of the map behind such a simple illusory wall. It really highlights how much they valued exploration in the DLC, and it's the only time I really felt those Dark Souls Metroidvania vibes from modern FromSoft. It was special finding this my first time, and getting to go down such a long and winding path with so much to see and do, ultimately culminating in one of the best fights in the series, Midra, Lord of Frenzied Flame. FromSoft, you are legends, mates. So what's left? We've covered illusory walls that hide checkpoints, items, areas, entire regions, lore. But what about an illusory wall that has endured since Dark Souls to create a legacy that is respected and upheld within the soulsborne community itself? I'm going a little meta here, but my final entry is dedicated to an illusory wall that has helped us to understand these games that we play, testing out theories and figuring out some of the most obscure mechanics that Soulsborne has to offer, especially in the original Dark Souls. I am talking about the YouTube video essayist, Illusory Wall, whose dissected series has helped to shed a lot of light on so much about what makes these games tick. I always knew they existed, but it wasn't until their Gravelord Servants video that I really became invested in their work. To put it bluntly, anything involving stats, coding, mechanics, numbers, it kind of goes a bit over my head. I'm like an overwhelmed anime character when they have steam coming out of their ears. But then I tune into a channel like Illusory Wall, and they're able to make some of the most complex information incredibly digestible to the viewer. Now, I'm not sponsored, or being held at gunpoint to say any of this. I genuinely just want to shed a bit of light on one of the hardest working members of the Soulsborne community, as Illusory Wall has discovered a lot of knowledge that we take for granted as common nowadays. Heck, they even popped into my recent 7 bosses who flopped on arrival video to explain that Pinwheel has a hidden desperation attack when he reaches under 30% health, where he'll spawn a whole host of clones in an attempt to overwhelm the player, and following this, Pinwheel is unable to clone anymore. This is something I had no clue about, because why would a normal player find this out? I kill Pinwheel extremely quickly, even in footage where I'm purposefully keeping him alive for time. Illusory Wall is still working to this day within the community, with some of the best research and a real passion for what makes these games tick. So if you've never heard of his channel before, I will leave a link below in the description and a card in the top right corner. I'd highly recommend his In Defense of the Capra Demon, Dark Souls Most Misunderstood Boss video. It's topical for the videos I know my audience likes, and I think Illusory Wall's viewpoint is incredibly unique due to his knowledge of all things Dark Souls. It's certainly a lot more intellectual than mine, and I love it. And Illusory Wall, if you are watching this, keep up the good work, my man. Can't wait to see what niche topic you'll bring up that I've never thought about before, but will suddenly become the most fascinating knowledge I've gained in the series. You rock. And that's my list. Which Illusory Wall is your favourite? Let me know down below, and be sure to parry that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all my future videos. We're trying to reach 50k on the channel, and I know we can do it. I want to give a shout out to my YouTube channel members. It costs $4.99 a month. You gain early access to certain videos, you get a shout out in the description and at the end of videos as well, and you now are getting access to my Dark Souls 2 Soul Level 1 run, which I'm posting 1 video a week. If you guys want to follow me on social medias, I have a Blue Sky, I have a Discord, I have a Twitch. Blue Sky is generally the best place to go, or you can catch me live streaming here on YouTube at least once a week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Adios.